Fox News Alert, new audio obtained by the Washington Post of President Trump on a call with Georgia election officials claiming that he won the 2020 election and threatening legal action. Let's take a listen to one of those clips.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state. But they are shredding ballots, in my opinion, based on what I've heard, and they are removing machinery, and they're moving it as fast as they can, both of which are criminal fines, and you can't let it happen.
With that, let's bring back our panel. Associate Editor for Real Clear Politics, A.B. Stoddard, Fox News contributor Jessica Tarloff, and Right in D.C. host and attorney Gail Trotter. A.B., start us off. Your reaction to the audio obtained by the Washington Post.
Well, the accounts of the whole hour's worth of sound really show that the president has been told by people, I guess, around him, like Mark Meadows is also on the call, that there is, fraud that needs to be looked into. So he has not read it in the paper. He's not seen it in a court docket. He's never actually been presented with evidence that Raffensperger has that he's hiding. But he's accusing Raffensperger of doing that. And then he says, of course, things like, in my opinion, machines are being shredded, so ballots are being shredded. So this is incredibly politically damaging to President Trump. He does not care one iota about that. But when we talk about Wednesday, when we talk about Republican lawmakers in the House and the Senate objecting to the certification of a free and fair, legitimate election with allegations of fraud and evidence of fraud they have not yet presented, this phone call where the president is threatening a Secretary of State who has counted the votes 3 times, a Republican who supported him, is going to be very hard for them to defend.
Jessica, your reaction to the audio.
My reaction to the audio is the same that it was just a few minutes ago. I'm absolutely gobsmacked, and I'm further gobsmacked by the fact that we haven't heard from every single Republican coming forward with their tail between their legs, saying we have now gone, this is a bridge too far. Ted Cruz was on earlier this morning with Maria Bartiromo defending this push to overturn the Electoral College results, asking for this 10-day audit for widespread voter fraud that no one has been able to prove. In court, the Trump team has had 1 victory. The Democrats, led by Mark Elias, has 60 victories. No judge, even Trump appointees, wants to hear anything about this ridiculousness, the most ridiculous of all being Louis Gohmert's suit, which got knocked down, I think, in like 30 seconds. It's terrible for Georgia. It puts Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue in a bad position. But most of all, it's terrible for America. He should concede. He should walk out that door on January 20th. I don't think Joe Biden cares if he attends the inauguration or not. And hopefully we can put this very dark period behind us, and all of these Republicans can atone and make amends for what they have done. It's 140 Republicans in Congress, I think, including people that won off of these, quote, fake ballots like Jody Hice in Georgia's 10th district, need to do a lot of atoning for this.
Gail, your thoughts.
A.B. and Jessica just don't get it. The voters who wanted President Trump to have a second term voted for him because he's a fighter. He's a man who fights. And this is yet another example of where they are not going to, A.B. said that this would be politically damaging, and Jessica is giving advice to her political opponent. Well, President Trump doesn't take advice from political opponents, and here's yet another example where he shows that he's going to the mat for the over 70 million voters who entrusted him to fight back. And this is yet another opportunity where he understands the radical leftist agenda that Joe Biden and his administration want to put, particularly in the radical list of judges that they want to put on the bench who are politicians in robes and who don't want to just fairly interpret the law, but want to enact a liberal wish list into policy through the courts. And so President Trump understands the stakes of this election, and the Georgia election, while it's a state election, has national implications. And it's the only way to stopgap the Biden administration from pushing through the radical agenda of D.C. statehood, Puerto Rico statehood, court packing, and abolishing the Electoral College. And I will tell you that President Trump's supporters are glad that he is continuing the fight.
All right, speaking of the stakes in Georgia, those critical runoff races that will decide the balance of power, here is Stacey Abrams, a Georgia Democrat.
The business of serving the people has really galvanized voters. They feel the very real consequences of COVID-19 here in Georgia, where we've had more than 630,000 infections, we have more than 10,000 deaths, and we have hospitals at capacity. Republicans have no intention of responding to COVID-19.
Gail, how do you respond to that?
That's absurd, but Republicans do not want this nationalized lockdown. They understand that the pandemic not only has health costs for our elderly and people who have other health risks too, but they understand that there's a huge economic cost to this. And that was one of the successful things of President Trump's first term, is that he finally gave a punch back to China in this Cold War that we've had going on with China. And we see that with the economic costs that the coronavirus has waged on America, we cannot just continue to have these lockdowns that do not enable people to be able to work. So while the Democrats would be happy to, particularly the politicians who haven't missed a paycheck and haven't missed a day of what they're doing to try and come up with bigger government and endless regulation, Americans want to be able to work and they want to be able to do it safely. And so Georgia is going to be a critical test in whether the Biden administration and the House run by the Democrats are going to be able to nationalize the lockdowns. And that is something that would take us in the exact opposite direction that we need to go in response to the pandemic.
Jessica, is COVID an effective issue in Georgia?
I'm not sure it's as effective as Democrats would like it to be. We thought that it was going to be a much bigger deal, actually, for the general election, and the economy snuck back up there as the most important issue, though I would argue, of course, that healthcare and the economy are inextricably linked at this point, especially because if you're locked down, you can't be going to your job. And so many Americans, millions, have lost employment during all of this. But I think that what can be associated with COVID is talking about the stimulus package and the fact that Republicans are blocking those $2,000 checks, how there has been a disproportionate effect of COVID-19 on communities of color. Stacey Abrams and her group have done an amazing job getting people to register to vote and to turn out to vote. I believe it's over 800,000 people now. A lot of that messaging centers around the disproportionate impact on people of color in America and in Georgia specifically. So I think COVID-19 matters. The economy is going to matter more. But I think that Gail's analysis is completely off base. The new positivity rate for Montgomery, Alabama is 48.9%. You can't go back to work like that. You have to stay in your house like that. We're not doing this for fun. Democrats want to work. They lost paychecks too. But we want to make sure that we're protecting American lives so that next year you will be able to go to work because you'll be alive.
AB, do the $2,000 stimulus checks make a comeback early in the new Congress? Is it possible that McConnell was just waiting to see what Joe Biden's wish list will be in terms of more COVID spending after, of course, the Senate authorized, Congress authorized $2.3 trillion in spending before the end of the year?
I think the majority leader made it pretty clear that he expects the Biden administration and Democrats to come back and ask for more, but he doesn't sound so interested. And the way that he kind of shot down the $2,000 checks by pairing them with things he knew wouldn't pass the Senate makes it pretty clear he doesn't support that. I think that, he's just, when Lindsey Graham is, still tweeting about, a standalone bill happening because President Trump has called for it, you just see too many Republicans in the Senate conference who are not interested in more debt spending and think that the Congress has passed enough COVID relief. I don't know how that's going to play in the Georgia runoffs. You saw both Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue have to pivot on that issue. So maybe, that's going to be problematic for the outcome of the races and the outcome of the majority. I don't think that changes Mitch McConnell's mind, though, no matter what, whether he's majority leader or minority leader in January or February. I just don't see when they come back for more relief, I don't see that he's going to be supportive of those checks.
All right, panel. Well, it's been an action-packed couple of segments together. Thank you so much for your time. Happy New Year. And It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.